favorite thing in the world. It's Whitney, bro. If you're new here, my name is Whitney. If the lighting's a little wonky, I literally bought this camera off TikTok Shop, so I'm hoping if the footage turns out good, I am going to make a TikTok about it. And if I keep looking here instead of at you, there's a little monitor on top of it, and so it makes me look a little fancy. I recently got back from a family reunion cruise. I will insert some photos. It's only going to be of me because I don't feel comfortable like putting my family on blast like that. But anyway, had a great time, but I thought a fun video to make would be essentially makeup I brought with me on my vacation, because I still haven't unpacked it yet, period. So for primer, I kept it pretty simple, and I basically just used two. That might not be simple for some people. For me, it's simple. Anyway, I used two, and those two were the Hard Candy Hydrating Primer, kind of like a dupe for the Milk. It's a closer dupe, in my opinion, than the e.l.f. one, and then the Benefit Porefessional Hydrating. So I like to put this one on first because it has it's pretty much empty. It has a wait time of like 30 seconds before you want to put foundation on it. So I like to go in on the perimeters of my face and basically just really make sure that primer is going to get everything. Hello. I don't know what this camera's doing. Again, I apologize if it's kind of inny outy. I'm doing my best. She was $40. Okay. Porefessional. I take this, and it has to be the hydrating kind. I don't really mess with the other kind. Just a tiny amount, and I like to put it right in my under eyes. Some people, if you have an eye cream you like, you can probably skip this, use the eye cream instead. I haven't found an eye cream that I feel like really does anything for me, so that's why I like to do this with this primer. And then with the rest, I just kind of spread it on two fingers, and then I put it in areas that tend to get dry and have a little bit of creasing, because since this does have that porefessional component to it, it is going to be pore filling to a certain extent. For foundation, I brought these three with me. So the e.l.f. Halo Glow, that's cute little hair, the Auric Radiant Glow Lust, whatever it's called, and then the Fenty Beauty Old Hydrating Foundation. I brought this one thinking, oh, if I want to wear something kind of lighter during the day. To be honest, I did not use this. It's nothing against this product. It just, I was either in the pool, which I did not apply light makeup for, or I was getting ready for the evening, which was heavier makeup. So the Auric sadly never got used. She did come with, so honorable mention. Anyway, so what I like to do is I like to take the doe foot from the Halo Glow, kind of gloop out a couple of gloopy dupes, and then I take the Fenty Beauty, oh, I forgot to say what shades. We're a mess. The Halo Glow is in the shade 3.5 medium, which like I said was me pre-vacation. Fenty one is the 345, but they don't even make this foundation anymore. Whatever. So then I go here and I basically just do one full pump of the Fenty in there. And then I just like to take a tapered small brush, mix it all together till that color is nice and consistent. You don't want to have any weird patches of one color or another. So then I do that, and then we're going to go ahead and apply. I did forget to mention, I did bring kind of like no-name brushes, which was a little risky because I literally never used these before, but this is the brand name. I don't know if that's going to... Hola. There you go. Mange. It almost looks like it says mange, but in like a funny way. But this is the 51239 brush. It's kind of just like this domed buffer. And I just like to go right into the foundation and start to, well, foundation mix that I did, and start to apply. And the thing I love is, believe it or not, I did just put a product on my face. But that's one thing I love about kind of mixing and matching your own colors, is you really can find a color in between certain products that match your skin perfectly, if not super, super close. The next category product, and I forgot to say I'm doing these in the order that I do my routine, just because that's what makes sense to me. Anyway, the concealer-esque products that I brought with me were the e.l.f. Putty Color Correcting Eye Brightener in the shade Medium Tan. And then I did also bring the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, as well as the NYX Born to Glow. The camo concealer's in the shade Medium Neutral, and then Medium Olive, but this one's discontinued, so anyway, the one I used most often was the Putty Color Correcting product, just because this was the thing I would put on that I wasn't putting an entire face with, just enough to kind of neutralize any darkness I had going on under my under eyes. But on to what we did have work for us was the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. And I scraped the excess off just because sometimes there's a lot on here. And then deposit a fair amount centrally located on where the darkness is that I have. So that's going to sit on our face, and we're going to move on to the next step while that's sitting. So for bronzer, I did actually bring two products. I brought the Soul Body Face and Body Bronzing Balm in the shade Deep. That's what I meant. And that is a cream product. And then I did bring the Tammy X Revolution Face Palette, which I have hit pan. I'm proud of myself. I've had this palette for a long time, and I use it all the time. So that just kind of speaks to how much product is in it. I almost dropped it. Anyways, and then I wanted to bring this palette just because of it having another highlighter and blush option without having to have those bulky options. I am just going to go ahead and apply the Soul Bonging. I'm going to go in here, and I just like to take a brush, give it a few up and down motions. And you don't want to sweep, you don't want to dig, because otherwise it's just going to be a little bit too much. And then I like to start with my forehead, just because then I can kind of move excess where I want. And I like to use a combo of stippling and sweeping motions, kind of whatever you want it to do in that moment is how I decide how I move my brush. Hello, I'm here.
It's me, Jessica. I'm in here.
Anyway, and this bronzer, why I wanted to bring it is because it gives a very natural kiss of bronze, but then you really can build it up and really, really get some pretty high intensity, dramatic bronzing. But like I said, this is a little bit fluffier of a brush, so this is going to be a little less concentrated of a bronzer look, but that's okay. We're just going to go ahead and get that blended on in. If you go a little overboard with your bronzer like I did here, you just take the same brush you used for foundation, no extra product, and just lightly, and you can kind of feather it down here so that the bottom isn't as harsh, but it just cleans that edge up and kind of, it gives you a little bit more of a chisel than it would if you left it alone. For blush, I brought the one in the Tammy X Revolution palette. I did use that one quite a bit, and then I did also bring the Fenty, technically this is a highlighter. I brought it to use as a blush. I don't really think I might have used the orange. I really don't remember, but she was kind of not rememberable, so that should tell you. Anyway, so the one I am going to use, just because I feel like I did use it just about every single day, was the Candy Paint in the shade Club Paradise, and this is by the brand Half Caked Makeup. And so the brush I'm going to use for this is the Mange. Oh, hold on. This entire set must be called the 51239, because this is also 51239. It's a brush that kind of looks like this, flat top but small, and Club Paradise is this really pretty, the internet description of it describes it as like a terracotta. If you're my skin tone or darker, it's really more of like a true peach than it is a terracotta, but it's still a beautiful blush. And then just lightly give that kind of kiss of color. Favorite thing in the world. And this blush lasts so long. I should have taken videos of how sweaty I got in the like club thing that they had. Because, man, let me tell you, a girl was sweating and the makeup was not moving. Period. Finally, 57 years later, what most of you have probably been waiting on this whole time, I'm going to be blending my concealer out. I'm using this kind of fluffy, it's kind of just straight up and down. I don't really know a way to describe it. It's really good for blending out concealer. Anyway, so I'm basically just tapping up and down in the same spot where the product is. Not really trying to move it a whole lot, mainly just trying to blend out the edges and pick up any excess. And then kind of take the fluffy edge and just gently buff any harsh lines out. And as you can see, it blends out beautifully. And I'm going to go ahead and blend the other eye out off camera. Now that the concealer is all blended, I just like to go back in with my same blush brush and tap over any edges that I might have accidentally created when I was blending that concealer out. And now we are going to be ready for powder. And I'm using this kind of tapered, fluffy brush from that same brush set. And we're going to be using the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder in the shade Medium. And this powder, let me just tell you, this powder is everything you want it to be and more. And I basically just kind of go right in. My favorite thing in the world about this powder is that it mattifies, but without looking flat and like busted. And I know a lot of things claim that they do that. And honestly, I don't even know what the claims of this powder are, but I had forgotten a setting powder, and so I had to go to Wally World's to purchase one. And I saw this, and I said, you know, I have not tried that out yet. I can't even begin to sing its praises, because when I say I had that on dripping in sweat, my makeup did not move. There was not a stain from the sweat, you know, like a trail. That wasn't even there. Oh, I'm telling you, especially because it's only $8. The other powder I was using was the RCMA No Color powder. And don't get me wrong, that's a great powder, but it's like $26, $28. Oh, e.l.f. one, $8. You honestly can't beat it. Now that we have our base mostly done, we're going to go back in with highlighter, but I kind of like to do that last. I'm going to go in with the eyeshadow primer that I brought with me, which is the Be Perfect Cosmetics Perfect Prime eyeshadow primer. And it is genuinely one of my favorite primers to use because it works with all sorts of formulas. It works whether you're trying to do a natural look. It works whether you're trying to do something bold and super colorful. It's just a really, really great eyeshadow primer. And some people use a brush, some people use a sponge. I just tap mine out with my finger. You know what I'm saying? Easy, whatever. And then over here where I blended my blush, I just like to tap to make sure I don't have any harsh lines. Because harsh lines make your eyeshadow look goofy, and we ain't trying to do that. So, while the primer is setting, I'm going to go ahead and do my eyebrows. I'm not going to do them on camera just because I think I'm going to make a dedicated like brow routine video, but I will show what I'm going to be using. This is the LA Girl, I think it's called Perfect Precision Slim, Shady Slim. That's what this one's called. Shady Slim Brow Pencil. I think it's in the shade black. I have no idea because everything rubbed off. Okay. And then I will be using the Benefit Gimme Brow in the shade 4.5. Literally a sample I got from Ipsy 75 years ago. And I just haven't bought any brow gel because I found this one and I was like, this works. We'll be right back. I'm going to do a more simple look, but the two eyeshadow palettes that I brought with me were the Be Perfect Cosmetics Born Ready. This was their collab with Ellie Kelly. I literally don't know who that is. I'm sure she's awesome. I just really loved the color story, and I thought this would be a perfect palette to have for travel, and I ended up being right about that because it does come with a really nice sized mirror. And then the other palette I brought was the Revolution and Jack palette, which looks like this on the inside, a mix of neutrals and colors. I did use these both one evening because I wore a lime green dress. I'll try to put a picture in, but I was litty when I took the pictures, so there's no guarantee what they're about to look like. I went into the shade Tangoed right here with just this kind of mustardy color. Just very lightly began to build this up with a super fluffy blending brush. So nothing too precise, nothing too fancy. Literally just placing that placing that shade in the crease and slightly above because I have really hooded eyes, in case you haven't noticed. I wanted it to be more warm of a look than some of the browns in here are, which is why I started with this kind of mustardy seed color. And then I basically just blend that as high up as I can. It pretty much looks like a transition on me because my undertones are yellow, so she's yellow. Next, I'm going to go into that shade Biscotti right here. Same brush and just back and forth. And this is just keeping it super duper simple. Okay. And so that's pretty, power is less than 30%. I'm going to plug this in and get this eye caught up and we'll be right back. I've got the eyes blended to where I want them to be. We're going to use the NYX glitter glue, which I did also bring with me. And just a teeny little dab of it. We're not going for full shimmer, but more of like a glimmer kind of effect. And so I'm just taking that NYX primer and I'm tapping it all over my lid and then into my crease just a teeny bit so that it can blend up there as well. That's kind of an important tip. A lot of people don't think about primers. In any kind of primer, whether it's your eye or your face, you want to make sure everything has kind of a level surface. So everywhere that you're trying to do something needs to have the same or equal amount of primer, even if it's like a different kind of primer, just because otherwise it's going to blend weird, basically. And use the shade Secco, which I think, where'd that go? Right here, which I think is supposed to be like Prosecco, which is kind of cute. Anyway, I'm just taking my middle finger, and it is kind of, we're not smearing because we don't want that. We just want to tap. And I don't know if you could see that. And then going back in with that same brush we just deepened everything up with, or blended everything out with the brown. Gonna blend that shimmer shade out as well, so it just kind of eases right into that transition color. And then to amp it up just a teeny tiny bit, we're going to go into the Revolution Jack palette. Large pan of gold here. Same thing, we're going to tap it. And this one is just going to go right in the center of our lid. I learned this trick from my friend Tina, where you just put kind of a lighter shimmer right in the inner part. Either a similar tone or not. I've seen her make both work. It really just kind of brightens everything. And then, of course, I'm a little, over the top, so I like to go back in with this, make sure everything's nice, and blend it out, little beachy, subtle look. And that is the eyes/eyebrows finished up. Now we're on to the highlights that I brought. I did bring this entire palette, which is the Ellie Star X Lele Posh Cosmetics. Unfortunately, my shade Mushy did not survive the trip, but it stayed as one puck. Loved all of these. These are a little bit more dramatic than what we're going for, but I did bring this entire palette, which I loved having because the nights where I was a little bit more extra, that definitely came in handy. And the other two, I brought the ColourPop Super Shock Cheek in the shade Parasol. I did also bring the Ipsy edition of the Ofra Rodeo Drive highlighter. I really don't support them as a brand since they came out with their Ignorant Stances, but this is a bad bitch. If you've never used it, I didn't buy it, so it's one of those, like, I don't really feel that bad. But, like, if I tell you they suck and I use it, does that cancel each other out? Whatever. So I'm just using this kind of fluffy highlight brush, and I just really like to tap. Some people swoop their highlights. It depends on my mood. And then after tapping out the majority here, I do kind of bring it around so that it connects with where it highlighted up here. So it's not just like a weird strip on my face, you know? That is it for the base. I'm going to show you what I brought for lips because it's a little interesting. A product I forgot to mention that I did bring was the e.l.f. Putty Blush in the shade Turks and Caicos. Take sweet tea along the bottom and the top. As well as in the corners. Using the blush shade, I actually take a little bit of that on my finger and then tap and kind of blend right along that lip liner. And it creates one of the prettiest nudes I've ever seen or used on myself. And so it was just one of those moments where I was like, I am feeling this combination. I actually didn't bring any mascara just because I knew I would be in the water a lot and stuff like that. I brought fake eyelashes, which were these from Velour, but to be honest, I don't feel like putting them on right now, and this look is a little bit more subtle, a little bit more natural. But in case you were wondering, this is the makeup I took on vacation with me. So if you enjoyed, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!